Hey, my name is Tom Archino, and this is Your Superior Self.
Yep, perfect. So go ahead while I hit record. Boom, go.
Hey, this is Tom Archino, and this is Your Superior Self.
A couple Delaware boys doing a podcast. What do you think about that?
I think it's amazing. I'm
Got
not
my
surprised.
well. I just wanted to real quick. I have my Dell made shirt on. You had your hoodie on earlier. And now you have a hat. Dell made. Shout out to those boys. I think they're from Seaford, Delaware, doing big things.
Well, and Trey, fun story. If I can,
Yeah.
I did I do the Rehoboth Social podcast, which you were on, and I follow a guy by the name of Michael Palmziano, and he is a reaction guy on YouTube, and he's a guitar teacher, and he's just been I won't say a godsend through the COVID, but I've really been into watching his YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
he has a big channel, and he brings a lot of great music on. He's an excellent guitarist, and I told my wife the other night, I said, I'm gonna text this guy and see if he'd come on my podcast because, you follow a guy like that, and you realize
Mhm.
through watching him, he's from Baltimore, and I go, well, anybody from Baltimore has been to Rehoboth or Dewey or Ocean City, one of the three, obviously. So I just sent him a message and said, "Listen, I do a podcast here in Rehoboth, and I'd be honored if you'd come on." And bing, he texted me right back. Absolutely. So we did that podcast yesterday. Just an amazing guy. But I'm sending him this hat because he
Awesome.
always wears a baseball hat, and it's not
Hmm.
because he's got hair and stuff. He just likes wearing a hat. It's always he always likes to wear a Hurley hat. So this actually is going to Baltimore.
That's awesome. We need some more Dell made stuff up here for sure.
Oh my gosh, those guys! And then they tagged me, and we did the podcast this morning, and somehow I got tagged with that Dell made hoodie on that I had. So
Yeah, I think they're pretty tight with the country singer Jimmy Allen.
yeah,
Didn't you
they
have his
are.
dad on the show or something like that? Or I don't
Yep,
know. Yeah,
Tyrone the transporter.
yeah.
Actually, they've been on. So, and you probably realize this, and when you start podcasting, it's a lonely spot, right? That first
Hmm.
podcast, and you reach out to people, and you're like, listen, I'm trying something new, and some people are like not so hot on the idea, and those guys, Delaware Apparel, all the guys, the Lower Slower,
Hmm.
302, all of them, they're all, I call them the hustlers, and I find them on Instagram, and they're just great guys, and we've built a relationship with those fellas, and yeah, Tyrone the transporter, and what's the singer,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Allen.
Allen.
Yeah, Jimmy
Yeah,
Allen.
Jimmy Allen. So yeah, we always try to give them a shout out, and you know what, they're hustlers.
Yeah, I think he. I, don't, I think he graduated from Cape. I think.
He
I'm
did.
not. I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
He's fairly younger than I am, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I tried to get him on the podcast, but
he's busy. He's
yeah,
busy.
he's busy.
I mean, he's doing all kinds of big stuff now. Shout out to Delaware.
He ain't
Uh,
doing nothing right now. Stop it. But yes, you're right.
I know you are. I mean, you got what so it's the Social Podcast Network. Is
Yep.
that what it's called?
Social Podcast
Social
Network.
Podcast Network, which is a network of podcasts, local podcasts, great podcasts. How's that going? What are you? Have you expanded? Are you still? It was like 5 shows or something like that.
Well, first I want to say thank you
Hmm.
because when I started doing the podcast, we have a mutual friend, and he said, "Call Tree," and I did, and we talked, and you gave me some words of wisdom and a little bit of advice, and it's nice when you're trying to do something like that, and a guy like that, like you, that I don't even know, takes a second and gives me some words, and I appreciated that, and so little things like that have got us to this point, and so thank you.
Hmm.
We're actually doing 9 podcasts now.
Wow,
Yeah. And I have another guy starting in March. So that'll be the 10th podcast that we're going to be putting out.
that is amazing. So, what are the genres? Is it all just different types? I think you. Yeah, I've seen a couple of them that look really good.
Yeah. So we do several podcasts on recovery. I'm sober. I've been sober for just celebrated 12 years. Um, We do an anonymous podcast with Jenna. She just brings in people and keeps it really anonymous and lets them share their story, which the anonymous part of it is very important. Be Soulfish, the Film Effect. We do a Pearl Jam podcast called In Too Deep, Pearl Jam fan podcast with Carlos and I. I do a podcast by myself called I'm Sorry About Last Night, Life After Getting Sober. We do The Gifted. We do, oh my gosh, now that you,
I think I like the I'm sorry about last night. I think that's pretty, and the anonymous one is pretty
yeah.
powerful as well.
Well, and so it's funny because I started off, and we do the Rehoboth Social, which is one
Hmm.
small business helping another, which you were on.
I loved it. Thank you, by
Yeah,
the way, for having me on.
my pleasure, man. It was great. And that's always just been about one small business or really just one person helping another. I
Hmm.
was good friends with my friend Matt Haley, who passed away. I think we're going on 5 years now, and he started all the Sodell restaurants.
Hmm.
So if you come down to Rehoboth, you'll see Matt's Fish Camp, um, Thompson Island Brewing, all those big restaurants. Matt started that. Matt and Scott Kammerer and a few other people. But one thing about Matt Haley, man, he was always available for help. Especially in the restaurant industry, but with anybody. But I've talked to people who've like had, the stoves and everyone's go down on Memorial Day weekend, and Matt comes over with a team of people and just gets it, fixed. And so when he passed on, I couldn't do what Matt did, but if I could just help in my way. And so that's how that podcast started. And we're doing really well. People are now calling to come on the
Awesome.
podcast.
So
So,
calling you to get set up so they can come on the show. That's pretty amazing.
well, and you do enough podcasting, and then people that have been on the podcast who enjoyed the podcast have friends that are in
Yeah.
small business,
Yeah.
and they
So that's all
refer them.
Delaware, right? Like all Delaware businesses.
All Delaware businesses, but Michael Palmiano, God, I struggle with his last name.
It's all
He's
good.
in Baltimore,
Okay. Yeah,
but
yeah, the
yeah,
guy you're just talking about.
for the most part, it's Delaware, Rehoboth.
It's great, man. Bringing awareness about small business in Delaware, especially the beach. I'm a big fan. The Sodell. I love the concept, the brand. Like I love Papa Grande's down at Fenwick. Like I'm a
Mm,
big fan of Sodell. I think it's just a good name. Like that should have been like a podcast name for sure, man. Like I love the stickers. I think they're doing great stuff. I mean, you got a nice little setup. You got the studio right next door to your salon, and I mean, you
yeah.
got a nice little setup, dude. I mean, it's professional. It's major league.
Yep. Shout out to Home Theater Solutions. Gavin, the owner, has been a good friend of mine for many years, and we had another space. In fact, we call it the Pod Fay. At one point, we were borrowing or using Preston Shell let us use one of their restaurants that had been closed down, and so he gave us a spot. No rent. He just said, "Go ahead and use it. You can pay the electricity." As much as it is about one small business helping another, really the podcast is what I like to focus on mostly is just helping.
Yeah.
That I learned a long time ago, especially in recovery. I remember early on, and I was like, I have nothing to offer. And a gentleman told me, listen, if you're here, you're helping.
Mm.
If nobody showed up and you were the only one here, and a person that may be struggling with life or whatever it is that they struggle with shows up and you were the only one here, you may be the guy that not saves them, but
Yeah.
maybe at least one step further. So the real message is about helping.
Yeah. Well, I've been, man, I've been going deep on some spirituality stuff. So I, I'm I am really believing in this idea of a super consciousness that is like allowing us to like feed off of that. And my hypothesis is that a lot of our aha moments come from that. If you look at a lot of brain scans, especially with like fMRI machines and some of the studies, you'll see big gamma spikes in the brain waves. And I think it has to do with, a lot of ideas. They don't just hit one person. It's usually like a bunch of people that get hit with these big ideas. And it's only usually like one person who actually goes through with it. But I think that the super consciousness has a lot to do with, we can contribute to that. Like, the running, like how you run in the morning and you post. Hell,
You
I
know,
work out.
I'm always a proponent to, if you're not living unless you're suffering.
I know, right? I love that. But the suffering that you and I endure, I think it helps the consciousness, the people out there. I think that that energy is sent out into the universe, and I feel like that helps people, if nothing else. Like if I don't have the right words to tell you what I need to tell you right now,
Right.
my energy will help me with that, right? Like
Right. Exactly.
I don't have to say shit to you. It's just the energy that I provide the universe will somehow help someone out there. That's how I look at it.
Well, and yeah, and you know, I follow you, and you're killing it in the running too. And what I love about you is you remind me a lot of myself. You know, there was a time when I started running and started having children and would take them. And if you follow through my Instagram through the years, even through my Facebook, you'll watch as my kids grow up. You know, they ride with me. Um, you know, they've smartened up a bit. They've bailed on me now because they've gotten a little older. But you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, they would join me, and I think it's a great. You know, we'd get to that bridge. I don't know if you know the Junction Trail, but there's a bridge, and you know,
That's
we'd get to
beautiful
the.
though, man. You got some beautiful pictures.
Oh yeah, and we get there, and you know, we would pray. You know, it was just to say thank you. You know, whether it's to God or it's just the experience of that mile and a half till you get to that point where your so self is so beaten down that you're open to the idea of saying thank you to something that you can't really put a finger on.
Something that's higher than you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um, and that's what you kind of do. I mean, you you endure that suffering to give thanks for where you're at today. I mean, you've had a rough journey, right? You talk about it in your podcast. How has the podcast helped you, staying sober?
As far as the podcast helping me stay sober, it doesn't.
Mm,
It doesn't. I'm at a point now. I mean, it's, you know, I got sober in 97, struggled, you know, had some time, you know, had to, because, you know, and I won't get into a lot of sobriety stuff, but you know, it evolves, right? And you know it does. Actually, it's weird because there's a part of doing the podcast is a little ego,
mm.
right? You know, I inside I feel like I have something that I can share with people that I think is going to help. You know, that's and what I always loved about you, Trey, is that you know I'm like spiritual, and you're like it's electricity. You know, there's electricity going on there, bro. And I'm like, I think it's spiritual, bro. But you know, there's
But there is, I mean, there is that aspect of spirituality, right? You got you got the ego. I know what you're talking about, man. I know what you're talking about. But
well,
that
see,
like the
I'm
electricity has to come from somewhere. You know what
no,
I
I
mean?
agree. No, and you're right. Absolutely right. It is electricity, but there's see, I come from the camp of everything that we have is a byproduct of something else. You know, I
Oh,
got
so you're like a materialistic kind of, or matter affects matter kind of thing.
well, you know, for example, you know, we did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, of course.
So, do you see the Bruce Springsteen commercial?
Yes,
You
it
know,
was
and
good.
he's
I
talking.
thought it was good. Did you not think it was good? The Bruce Spring, the Jeep
Well,
commercial.
I thought it was shot well. Sure, I thought
Yeah.
it was a beautiful commercial, but I think it's the wrong message. You know, that freedom is a right. It is a right that we get, you know, from the what is the First Amendment or Second Amendment, whatever amendment it is that gives us the right to run around in a Jeep. But to me, you know, you can be free and riding around in your Jeep, but if you're consumed by self,
Sure.
you're a prisoner in the worst way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So to me, like doing a lot of work, whether it's just sharing, talking, you know, working with others, it takes that self out of it, and there is a freedom that is a byproduct that is left over from that. And
mhm.
I love, you know, I'm grateful I'm free. I'm grateful for this country. I love all that, but you know, I feel like there's a lot of people out that are free to drive around, but really suffering in this self-centered prison.
Oh, there is nothing but suffering out there. I was suffering, suffering for goals that were created by the ego, like you talk about. The
Sure.
ego is always trying to outdo the last thing that I achieved. And I tell you what really helped me, man, was Ram Dass. You know, you talk about spirituality. I don't know if you
Mm.
read him at all, but man, he has just opened me up to so many different thought ideas about the real self, right? Like the real true self of what, we're just wearing a costume, man. Like these bodies that we're wearing are just, just
They're grain
costumes.
cars.
Yeah. I'll pretend to be Trey, you pretend to be Tom, and we'll just act like we're sitting here having a conversation. And when in reality, we're so much more. You know what I mean? Like you when you did what was it? You did AA, right?
Still do.
That was the guy who
Lifer.
the guy was who created that. I can't remember his name.
Bill Wilson.
Yes. So he was a patient
Dr.
of
Bob.
Dr. Bob was a patient of Carl Jung,
Right.
the famous psychologist. And basically Jung was like, I can't, there's nothing that I can do to help you at all. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing in my toolbox that can help you with your problem. Some people have gone to spirituality, the route of spirituality, to help them with their alcoholism. And that's what he did. He went the route of spirituality. So if you look at AA and all of the things that are related to that, it's very spiritual. And that's why I like it. Like, my mom gave us some Alateen books back in the day and read it. And I wasn't really ready for that then, like I just wasn't ready for that. But now that I go back and look through the stuff, like it's so more people need to read it, is what I'm trying to say. I mean,
Well,
we're
if it said, we admitted we were powerless over self and our lives had become unmanageable, it'd be a whole different book, right?
absolutely.
I always say, and spirituality to me and is like, me coming over to your house and saying, "Here, Trey, I brought you a Corvette, parked it in your front yard. Love it, beautiful 2021 whatever mid-engine Corvette, put it in your front yard. Take the keys, throw them in your garage, and then fill the garage with boxes and shut the door. You have the car,
Yeah.
but you can't drive it.
Yeah.
And the boxes on each of these boxes are like self-centered fear, ego, pride, all of these little character defects that we all deal with. And they're important. It's for survival, some of these things, but they can get in the way until you start opening that door and start identifying the boxes, working through the boxes, clearing out the boxes. The Corvette isn't really available. And that's kind of like spirituality to me. There's a lot of work that has to be done, a lot of, I still say suffering, but even like a meeting, you go to a meeting, the meeting should suck. It's
Mm.
not a fun time. If it's better than what you were doing before you got to the meeting, you just went to a social event. Meetings are for, you know, inconvenience, doing what you don't want to do. It should be something that's a bummer. You should be like, gosh, I really don't want to leave all the wonderful things that sobriety or whatever it is that you've worked on have provided me and go spend an hour being with the newcomer,
Mm.
you know. But you'll see a lot of people they just love it. They live for the meeting. And if that is what you're doing, you're just at a social event.
Mm. Well, what do you feel like afterwards? Like, how do you feel?
Great.
Yeah.
You should. It's like speaking. It's like, and let's say you're going to, and, maybe interview somebody really important, that's going to test your ego, what you'll feel about yourself when it's all said and done. And afterward, and it goes smoothly, and you're just like, yeah, because you were full of fear. You were inconvenienced. It was out of your comfort zone. But once it happens and that wall of self centered fear comes down, it feels great.
Mm.
And it's just like a meeting. It's just like any, performance, anything that you have to do that really exposes us.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, you get in that zone, right? Like, especially with running too. I feel like that. Like what you're talking about, that feeling you get after you accomplish something like that. I mean, I don't know if I. It's so hard because, like, I think about all the things that the ego tell me to do, or like I try to be conscious of that, right? Like the feeling I fall asleep to the ego quite a bit. We
Yeah.
all do. It's humanity. It's human nature. But it's like that. What you want to try to do is gain. No, I thought freedom was escapism, right? Like trying to escape the feelings of being human, of those packages that you were talking about in that Corvette, escaping that and kind of being like, oh, I'm not that. I'll just kind of push it away and not feel it. I won't feel it. I'll just be like, all right, I'll witness it, but I won't feel it. And that was harder than actually like feeling the feeling. Like, I think, and Ram Dass says this, right? Being in hell with an open heart. allowing your humanity to be you and you be it at the same time. Like, I know that I am something from a higher consciousness, something of a higher self, whatever you want to call that. And I am here to experience humanity in all of its forms: pain, suffering, love, joy, all of that. And that is the school of life. That is a school here on earth. If I continuously like try to meditate and not feel the pain or the anger or the anxiety or anything like that, like, why am I here? I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm just pushing it aside, pushing it deeper, pushing all that pressure down until something small, like my kid, I don't know, getting loud when I'm on an interview and I explode. You got to be in the
Arrogance.
moment, right? Yeah, you got to be in the moment, like right now, and be what open to whatever experience happens, and then like feeling that emotion wherever you're at, and accepting it as a part of your humanity, but not, but recognizing it that it's not you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. It's yeah.
It's hard though. It's hard because, like, you know how many times when I get angry, it's like, man,
How
dude,
many
like,
times?
too many to count. Like, I mean, I just, but then I got to realize, it's just the body's getting angry. It's not the being that is me.
Well, I always say the only problem I have is me being inconvenienced.
Hmm.
That's it. And I remember my buddy Matt. He's like, guys like you and me are arrogant. And I was like, what's that mean? And he goes, the rules don't apply to us. And I'm like, oh. And he was right. So understanding that and then realizing how, and you mentioned it, kids, man, kids can bring the arrogance out in me because, I can get up in the morning and everybody's running smooth and, we're taking the kids to school and everything's going my way. Cause in the end, it is about me, right? I mean, I'll say one thing, but in the end, it's about me. And everything's going my way and everything's smooth. I'm letting people come in from the stop sign. You come in, just the friendliest guy in town, right?
Good old
But put
Southern
me
Delaware.
but put me 10 minutes behind and it's because of my kids or something like that. And all of a sudden I'm going around people. I'm
Hmm.
driving through graveyards, I'm skipping, I'm breaking all the rules. All of a sudden the rules don't apply to me.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? Get up earlier, right? I start having to figure out, you see me run, why I run in the dark? Because I got to get the kids to work by 8 or to school by 8. So
What time you get up?
5:30.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes 5.
I have been slacking on the outdoor running in the morning just because I want to take my daughter with me, but it gets super cold, and I guess I've
Yeah.
been I've been slacking just because how cold it's been. But there is nothing better than an outside run. Like, I've been doing the treadmill downstairs. Nothing like an outside, good old fashioned outdoor, oxygen. And it's just been, I could tell the difference. I mean, where you're, some of the pictures you take are just amazing. Like, you're right there. I mean,
All shot with my iPhone.
it's crazy, man. Like the sunrise, and you got a couple buddies that you run with, and
Well,
uh,
and so I'm 52, man. My I wake up at 5 and I'm like, I don't want to run. So what I've decided is I just make a bunch of dates with a bunch of men and run. And so I got guys I run with on Mondays. I got guys I run with on Wednesdays, and I have guys I run with on Fridays. And it keeps me into it because I'll talk myself out of it.
yeah. Do you run 5 days a week, 7 days a week, or what does that
No,
look like?
3.
3 days
Monday,
a week.
Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Nice. And then what do? You take the kids to school. I tell you what I love after a nice long run. It's some nice coffee, man.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
dude,
man.
absolutely. Usually
Coffee right
we'll
after a run.
usually we'll go sit on the porch and have coffee. When I on those mornings I make like 10 cups in the pot, and Brian or my buddy James will sit on the back porch and have coffee. And even what's today? Thursday? Yeah,
Today's
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah.
We ran
You run tomorrow, right? Do you run tomorrow?
I do run tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice.
We ran yesterday. My buddy James couldn't go, but my buddy Brian was there, and we did 4 miles, and then
Four
we sat.
miles is perfect. Like, I used to think that I had to run 10. Like, I'd hit 10 and be so banged up, man. Like 4 to 5 miles is my wheelhouse. Like,
Yeah,
I feel
five
perfect.
5 miles is fine. It just depends. It was windy, And where I live, I live next to the trail, so we actually run from my front door down Wolf Neck Road to the
Mm.
trail. From my house to to the trail, it's usually pretty, like on the other day, it was really, really windy. And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And but once we get on the trail, it's fine. There's no wind. It's
Sure.
completely protected.
What's your
But
Instagram so that everybody can follow you?
it's a good question. I have which one?
Well, they got to. Yeah, whatever. I mean, the pictures you post are just amazing. I mean, of the trail, of the beach. I mean,
Sure.
it's
No, let's see. So if you really want to follow me, it's Tomac 24.
okay.
That's my, and that's another, because I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven Instagrams.
Are you
And
managing all those yourself, or do you have somebody helping you out with that?
no, I manage them.
You do. What's your
But I'm
goal?
also
What's your goal with the network? What are you trying to do with that?
nothing.
Nothing. Just
Provide a great place for local folks to do a podcast.
do you see sponsorships in the future?
We have sponsors now.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice, man.
AMS is a sponsor. Home Theater Solutions is
That's
a
right. Yeah, they
sponsor.
are. Yeah.
Titanic Pizza is a sponsor. We have some sponsors. We've had other sponsors. Thompson Island was a sponsor. It's funny. I wanted to make sure we're going to be around for a while.
Mhm.
So it was hard for me to approach. Thompson Island was a sponsor, but Scott Kammer, we've been friends. We were been friends a long time, and I think he paid for a year.
Mhm.
He gave me $1,500, and he's like, here, and I wanted to make sure that we could be around and do this for a while before I started really trying to take people's money.
Well, do you think that you're? I mean, I think you're going to be around for quite a bit, man.
Yeah, no, I do too. But we want to be better. So we created a website, Social Podcast Network. You can follow all of our podcasts there. Um,
I loved
and
our
now,
podcast, by the way.
what's that?
I loved our podcast we did.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
thought it was great. You're a smart guy.
nah, no. I just had good company, bro.
Thank you, man.
Um, feeding off that energy. Yeah, I think I really, really like that Southern Delaware has a podcast network. Like I don't, there's something about it, you know. Like my heart is in Delaware. It will always be in Delaware, and I think that where I lived. Shout out to Laurel. Is
What's up,
that
Laurel?
yeah, buddy? Laurel, Delaware, Laurel Bulldogs.
They're Laurel Bulldogs.
That's 2001.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's nice. It's nice that Delaware is just I don't I don't know too many. I don't. Baltimore doesn't. I don't know if Baltimore has a podcast network at all. And then
Well,
you guys are focusing on like small businesses in Delaware, like getting that recognition out there. Like I love it.
and you got a spot here if you ever want it. If you ever move back to the
Oh
beach,
man,
brother, you got a spot here at the Social Podcast Network.
yeah,
If you
buddy.
need it, you're doing just fine. But it is, but podcasting, man, it takes a village.
It takes
Um,
a village.
and you're also, you, I think we shared or I shared before. I was inspired by Joe Rogan's podcast.
Hmm.
I watched it. I'm like, I could do that. Maybe not talk to Elon Musk, but I could sit and chat for an hour. I mean, I'm a hairdresser. I do that all the time anyway.
Hmm.
It's what I do. I have 8 podcasts throughout my day with clients. So conversation was never a challenge, but you
Who's like?
know,
Do you have like somebody on there that is like a bucket list guest that you want to interview?
a bucket list guest. Well, that's funny. I've had a few. I've had a
Mine
few
is Joe
bucket lists.
Rogan. Mine is
Well,
Joe
yeah,
Rogan.
okay, sure. I would like to be on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh, that'd be killer. That would be
Um,
killer.
yeah, I mean, that would be terrific. And it's funny. I don't really listen to podcasts. I don't. I don't read books either.
Oh God,
Sorry,
he's
I
got
just don't.
9 podcasts. I don't listen to any of them.
No, no. I'll listen. I was just listening to Carlos and I's Into Deep podcast. If you like Pearl Jam,
Hmm.
we probably have the #1 podcast right now in the country.
Wow.
Into Deep. It is a killer podcast. It's funny. Carlos is hysterical. Another thing now we have is an intern.
Do you
University of Delaware.
really?
Yep.
Oh,
Deltec's.
shout out to is it Deltec? UD program at a Deltec?
Communications department at
Oh,
Deltech
okay.
sent us. But we reached out and said, "Listen, we're really working hard at this," and
That's what I need, an intern. That's
yeah.
what I need. That's
So when
fun.
I say I manage the Instagrams, I do. But Cody is like, what's Joe's guy?
Man, I know you're talking about. It's gonna come to me in a minute.
Jamie.
Yeah, JB.
Cody's like Jamie, man. And we did this podcast the other day, and he's just like, he's bringing everything up on the TV. I don't know if you, I, I don't remember if you saw, we had
Okay, yeah,
the
yeah.
big TV in
Well,
here
I don't know if
now.
that was there. I don't know if that was there last time I was there.
I think it was. You were just sitting below it. But,
Mm.
Cody, we've got the setup now. Cody comes in and he's just bringing up information, and he's just everything. We were talking about when I was watching an LA Pearl Jam show on YouTube. And at one point, Eddie throws this lady out of the show. And we were talking about it in the podcast. Boom, Cody's got it up on the TV, the whole article, her explanation. So it's kind of made that a little bit made the podcasting a little more fun, because it's hard to like start
Sure.
typing and looking up stuff without
Yeah.
sounding
Have you
boring.
have you gotten like what's his face from Dogfish yet?
Sam.
Sam.
I've asked him.
Yeah, nothing. What about
Um,
the owners of Dolly's? What about them?
they can come on. I'd love it.
What
Sometimes,
what's the drama going on there? Like, isn't there some drama going down at the boardwalk with Dolly's?
yeah, they're leaving.
Why?
They couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it. They've
Mm-mm.
been there forever. It is a monument of Rehoboth Boardwalk.
Well, that's what you're hearing about. But Grotto's bought it.
Grotto's bought the building, like the place.
Yeah. And actually, so they're moving the sign. It was a hot topic kind of around the election, because they kept seeing pictures of Dolly's sign on the White House. But I think they're moving the sign down a couple stores, and I think Ibach Candy and Dolly's. I think Dolly's owned Ibach Candy as well. So I think they're going to kind of come together, and then I think they're going to move the sign down. So
Grotto's was my first job ever.
yeah,
I was a busboy at Grotto's South Boards. Shout out to them.
yeah.
I
think they've employed probably half the state.
I was terrible. It was my first job ever. They had like a job fair at my high school, and they're like, "You want a job? Go work at the beach, see the girls." Sure, man. What do you got? It's a busboy. Yeah, all the free pizza you wanted. Like, I was tearing pizza up.
Grotto's is funny, because my issue with Grotto's is they're priced for the visitor, which is fine. I get that. They make a pizza that's a little different, but if you put a Grotto's in front of me, I'm eating that whole thing. It's a great pizza.
Are you kidding me? It's my favorite pizza.
Okay,
Hands
there you
down.
go.
I remember
I'm on the Grotto's team.
Grotto's is my favorite pizza. I will eat. Maybe it's like the memories. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it is like my favorite.
Well, I don't know if you know this. This might be breaking news for you, but Nicola's is leaving Rehoboth.
Really, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yep, they're leaving, and they are, if you know where PNC Bank is, almost
Okay,
right
yeah.
across from
Why are they doing-
Grotto's.
Is it the price? Is Grotto's? Did they buy that place too and just jack up their competition?
No, I think Nikki owned that place.
Mm,
Nikki Caggiano owns a lot of property.
it
Around
sounds like
here.
it just by the name.
Yeah, well, the Nicoboli, Nikki,
Yeah.
the dad. But where that PNC Bank is, there's an old storage unit there. They're tearing it all down, building a new Nicola's. You know, I'm not going to get into Rehoboth politics, but there's a lot of parking. It's very expensive. It's crazy. With COVID this past year was a big challenge. The outdoor dining, they provided barricades so that these guys could have outdoor dining. Apparently they're going to charge now for that. So,
Oh, I guess
and
I make $1. I don't know.
like when I had Scott Kammerer from Sodell on, he's like, these places out on the highway are just checking a lot of boxes when it comes to placing a restaurant, parking, accessibility. I mean, Route 1 now, it's crazy. I think a lot of people used to come through here to go to Ocean City, but I think a lot of people are now they're stopping here. It's very busy down now. It's crazy.
Well, I am a Fenwick Island guy. Always been lifeguarded there. Love it.
Sure.
But Lewis is right up there Rehoboth. I mean, I remember going to Rehoboth as a kid, and we had family vacations there. I mean, I love it. It's a clean beach, man. Like it's
Beautiful.
very clean,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. You can't beat the rides. The rides are
Right.
amazing. You know what I mean? Like I love. I mean, I love Delaware beaches are like the best kept secret ever.
Funland.
Funland.
Yeah.
It's the best kept secret. I'm telling you right now.
Well,
Uh,
I don't know. I think the secret's out, man, because we are inundated with people. I moved here in '94. I've seen, so in 2024 will be 25 years, I guess, or 24 years. No, 24 years. And no, 20. I don't know. Do the math. And it's been a freaking long time. But I've
long
seen a lot of
time.
change. Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes go on. And the amount of people is keeps increasing. And we used to have kind of a break for the winter, but COVID, the quarantine, people have just
Mhm.
abandoned New York, New Jersey. You can't, we're right in the middle of right now trying to, we were going to build a house. We were going to rebuild our house, in fact, and we just can't do it. Can't find a place to live. When during the construction, we couldn't rent an apartment. We were going to stay at a friend of mine's bed and breakfast, Blue Water House down in Lewis, and we just couldn't do it. So now we're trying to maybe buy a house, and it's like a year out, and
Yeah,
so it's just a ton of people moving down here.
sure, sure. No,
So the secret's out.
secret is out. COVID,
COVID.
COVID taking my stuff.
So you mentioned you were struggling. I mean, how's COVID treating you? Has it been a
Well, the kids were shout out to Catholic schools. They really beat COVID with going back to school. So my kids are back in school. They've been back since October, I think, something like that. They man, I tell you what, they've done it right, and I can tell the difference. At first, I mean, since homeschool, and you're a parent, like it was brutal. It was the worst. Not because that I just don't have it's like your kids. It's like coaching your kids in any sport. Like it's just tough. They don't listen to you. It's like Common Core math, which is totally different than what you're used to. I
that
can't
certainly
even do
won't help
Common
them?
Core. Like my kids in the future are going to be at Target checking out, counting blocks to figure out how much money they owe the freaking cashier, right? Like you're gonna you owe four tens, 15 ones, and I mean it's just insane what this
Yeah,
Common Core has done to these kids. But
man. We actually pay my oldest son to tutor my daughter.
but here's the thing, right? Like colleges don't even teach Common Core. So what are they learning Common Core for? Like they're gonna get in real life and be like, what are you talking about? We don't use blocks in real life. I mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I actually think that there's some sort of thing to try to keep parents from helping. I know that sounds silly, but I do. I think there's something about eliminating us as the helpers, and
I'm
with my
sure.
kids, I've always been, I don't help my kids. My kids don't get any help from me, and that's because
At
my
least you're honest
parents.
about it.
Yeah, my parents helped me so much that it was a burden. It was a struggle, and at the time, I loved it. More help, more help. Just to get that grade. They we'd grind it out for hours at night just to send me with that grade, and it was clearly because I didn't either pay attention, or I just didn't have the courage or the know-withal to ask the question or admit, hey, I didn't pay attention. And that's those three things have always been very. I tell my kids, I don't care what grade you get, just as long as, like, if you know that you don't understand, it's because of one or two things: you didn't pay attention, or you don't have the courage to ask a teacher. So having a conversation and trying to understand and get to the bottom of it on your own, it means much more to me than an A,
Mm,
you know. But I
working
can tell
for
you that
that.
my son, my oldest son, David, he gets straight A's.
Hmm.
He gets straight A's, and he doesn't get any help. I mean,
They might.
I couldn't help him now. He
Well,
left
the
me.
cool thing is though, they have so many tools now, like especially with YouTube. I mean, Khan Academy has been a great help in trying to learn some of this stuff, and we didn't have that growing up, right? So, going back to school for me has been, I was so scared of going back to community college, and I finished up that, what was it, last year,
How'd
and
you feel?
Feel great, amazing.
Right.
I was scared. Like I had to take, I did business, so I had to take a lot of the. I had to
So
take
you were consumed with self-centered fear,
yeah,
worked through it, and then
work
it
through
felt
it.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, felt amazing. Because I
Just like
was
the question you asked me early on.
absolutely, man. So I like how you did that.
Yeah.
But
You just answered your own question.
I know I should have just asked myself that. Khan Academy has helped me though, like just watching YouTube over and over and over again. Because math, there is always a pattern. There's always a pattern to a problem. It's just picking
Right.
up on that pattern and formulas and stuff. And I didn't know that growing up because like you go to class and you try to sit in front of the teacher and like I have a hard time paying attention. Undiagnosed ADD.
Me too.
um, and it was hard. And then if I didn't pay attention, I would not learn, and I would not ask my friends because I felt embarrassed, and
Hmm.
my parents didn't know how to help me. So like a lot of math for me was a struggle. I mean, I'd get C's, mostly C's, some B's in math, but then like when I went to college, like I did everything in my power not to take math. And I mean, you're not going to go very far if you don't take math, right? So I quit school and got my career, and I'm very fortunate to where I'm at today. And I decided to go back for myself and gift myself with that degree because it was eating me up. It was like, I know I can do this. I'm just going to go do it. I don't
Right.
care if I have to take the non-credits to get up to the credits. I'm going to do it, whatever it takes. Scared to death, took the placement test. Of course, I got to take the non-credits. Start taking the non-credits. And I'm like, man, I'm shaking in my boots. This is going to be terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was like it was very worth my while because it like built the foundation upon everything that I missed growing up. And it like now I just got done taking a business statistics A. It was very hard, but I'm glad that I I'm glad that I did the basics first. It's all about the basics, and it's you can apply that to anything in your life. Like
Yep.
go in with the basics, do the work, get a good foundation, and then build upon that.
I agree. Well, and you just talked about a lot of the things that I'm, kind of preaching about. You projected and you lived in it
You know,
and you
projected
suffered. You
projected
weren't
fear.
you were a prisoner to it.
Hmm.
You weren't free from it. And there's a lot of things that you can do to prevent that, staying in the moment. Staying in the moment is such a simple solution to a lot of problems.
It is. It's tough though,
My buddy used to tell me, he goes, as long as you're not smoking crack and paying for hookers, it'll all work out.
which
And
is true in some sense. It
it
is
is
true.
true. And, he dumbed it down, but, it's very, I can make a checklist of things that I'm not doing.
Hmm.
And as long as these things aren't going on, and I can tell you, I've never paid for hookers well, I can't say I never smoked crack. I mean, we called it freebasing, bro. Um, but I know that that doesn't take place in my life today. So, I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's
that
just, it's
moment's
those
tough
simple
though.
things,
Yeah, that moment's tough because the
simple
ego, like
reminders.
the ego is always trying to make you think about the future, right? Scare you, what's going to happen, and then make you feel regret about the past. You should,
That's right.
and that's the ego. And like being in that moment, that's why meditation for me has been really big. Is trying to stay in the moment and just feel the body, and just realize what it does. Because that's helped me with anxiety and depression, feeling the body and just knowing that it's not you, right? Like, I don't know if you've struggled with that and all, but like if you really just look at the body and take a step back, like I remember my wife went out for, something not too long ago, and like I was she went out with some friends. I think she was having dinner with them or something, socially distancing and being safe about it. But like, I wasn't jealous that she was out. I was just like frustrated because I had the kids and I was trying to put them to bed, and she got home later,
Inconvenienced.
inconvenienced. And and I said, you know what? I could feel myself. I could feel the anxiety. I could feel the just being annoyed. And I could feel my body, the chemicals releasing into it. And I'm like, man, this isn't me. But I had to take a step back in the moment, and just like feel it and just be like, all right, I noticed what you're doing. Like, I know, my body, this is what you're doing. And I'm not going to allow it to produce any type of negative thoughts. It's going to get me in an argument with my wife later, which I'm going to regret. And I'm just going to sit here and just deal with these feelings, and then I'm going to work through them, and then have a constructive conversation when she gets home and say, hey, look, I don't know why I felt this, but I felt this. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, it makes sense. And the problem is that you just got to go a little farther and say this is actually because I am being inconvenienced.
Hmm.
And that's really what it is. I mean, it's what we want. I mean, what would you rather have? Her go out and take the kids and you have nothing to do and if, have a free night? Of course, that's just an example. I'm not saying that's what you would want, but that sounds like a fair trade, right? That sounds like something we might want. There's and the funny thing about 12-step programs, unfortunately, is that, you think you have to be an alcoholic, right? Or a drug addict. But like you talk about, like I said in a second ago, if we admitted we were powerless over self, that our lives had become unmanageable, then we would all be like, no, this is a program I can understand or do because I'm not an alcoholic, but it's still something that's there. The 12 steps of AA everybody should do it, I think, because it's a real, you work through the steps. It's a relationship with the higher power, turning it over, surrendering, making a list. There's an example in the book that says, I hate Mr. Jones. And I was like that, I hate this guy. And why? I don't know. I just hate him. Why? I don't know. I'm going to just feel it, but I hate him. But, then it starts talking about, well, really, Mr. Jones has a nicer car. Maybe he has a prettier wife or makes more money or whatever it is. Understanding and identifying those kind of things, you can still hate him, but just know there's reasons. There's reasons. And if it's really that big of a deal, there's things that you can do to change your life to make you either not really even care about Mr. Jones or maybe make you feel better about yourself. And so understanding those things, like, yeah, I'm just lucky. I guess I'm lucky I'm an alcoholic because I had to go through all those steps and, and meditating and, you know, apologizing and making amends and cleaning it up and then working on it on a daily basis. And then in the end, the 12 steps is, be there for the next person.
Mm.
So, be inconvenienced for the next person. And,
Mm.
I'm lucky that way because I guess I go that one more farther because to me, like I said, everything, all my problems are me being inconvenienced, unless I broke a leg or something physical happened. But my biggest fight that I have in a day or in a week is usually with my wife, and it's usually about who will be taking and dropping off the kids. And if I have to take and drop off, oh, forget about it. I'm freaking annoyed, because I don't, that's not fair, right? I'm inconvenienced. So that is my biggest problem is that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, you're right. Inconvenienced. I try to, I try to do things to, throw, some stock my way a little bit. Like I'll drop off, pick up, make some coffee for her in the morning, and then I'll do things to buy equity and trace time. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
um,
Credit.
credit.
Credit. I do the same thing. Dude, funny thing. So, I'm not going to talk too much about my wife, but this is a big topic for us is dropping and taking the kids and, where I work, I'm closer to my in-laws. So of course I should be the one that always goes over, if my, like today didn't have school. So my daughter was up in my in-laws and, cause I'm over here, I should be the one to pick them up, but I'm also the one that took.
Mm.
So she'll say, well, maybe do you mind picking them up? I'm like, but if she said I'm on my way to go pick up the kids, I'd be like, you know what? I'll go get her.
Yeah.
If I feel like it's a give and take,
Yeah.
but if I feel that I have a shirt that says at some point in your life, you will feel like you're doing everything. And that's how I feel.
Well, so what time do you start, cutting hair and all that?
Just depends, man. My day, I'm really passionate about the podcast network. I'm passionate about, and I say nothing and, I'm kind of aloof about it, but, I, I want to. I guess when you say what do I want from this network, I want to just have respect. I want to be a tool for people to if they want to. I just had a guy reach out to me today. He is a physical therapist, but he's a spiritual based physical therapist.
Mm.
He's he's Lord, I don't want to say he's a spiritual based therapist. So he's all about spirituality, God. He's a little farther up the spirituality. He's kind of
Like what's on?
the
Like dogma or like holistic?
no, just religious Bible.
Oh,
Just
okay. Dogma.
he preaches the word.
Okay.
And but he called me and he's like, listen, I actually another guy, this other guy, Rob West, who I did a podcast with, too young, and I don't even like identifying people's color anymore, but two young African American guys that are creating programs to help young African Americans that maybe don't have father figures in their life. They're trying to, you know, rebuild the community from the young people's level. And so they do prior to COVID, they had um, speaking events, but for them to attend, they had to wear a suit, tie. It was a great. I love these guys, and so Rob West texts me all the time. I got a guy. You know, that's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what I want to just be. Taken
Put
seriously.
you're putting that energy back though too. You know what I mean? Like you're putting that energy back in the universe, that positive energy that people feed off of.
Well, and
Uh,
I appreciate that, and the N2D pod, or I'm sorry about last night podcast, which you had mentioned, and it's about recovery. I have to watch the ego part because um, I always say, if I didn't have an ego, I'd have nothing to say, right? I like the monks in the mountains in Italy or wherever, they
that's a lot
sit
about
there.
everybody though, man. That's everything. That's a prefrontal cortex stuff, dude. Like, I mean, we be dogs, you know. I mean, like we just be happy to see each other and not, give hugs and stuff like that, and not no wars or nothing like. If we didn't have ego, I mean, ego
Sure,
does all that shit.
sure. But I want to balance it, because that's the kind of stuff that can start to undermine my foundation. If I start thinking like, and kind of the bad part is that a lot of people are starting to listen to it, and people are reaching out and thanking me, and
That's
I'm like,
good, man.
you start patting yourself on the
That's
back, and
ego. That could be ego too. You know what I
it
mean?
can
Like,
be, so I have to be careful. I try to keep it very simple with that. Just share what I'm thinking for the day. I do a little daily reflections read. I play a song from somewhere that I found, and then that's it. And um, but it's passion. I'm passionate about this network, and I'm passionate about the people, and I think it's starting to reflect in people reaching out. And the one guy, this new guy that wants to podcast, though, he is, he wants to do bourbon testing or tastings and wine tastings and bring in, a wide range of folks, which I'm all about. I think that's great. I did have a lady on once, Karen Spazzato from Spazzato Wines, and she brought a bottle, and she was ready to drink that bottle of wine with me, and I was like, I can't do
can't
it,
can't do it.
can't do it,
No, no, no.
not gonna do it.
This is awesome, man. We're coming up on our time.
Cool, man.
How can people connect with you? How can they reach you?
Well, Tomac24 is my Instagram. If you want to find me, there is you can reach out through the Social Podcast Network. David Archino is my other Instagram. I'm sorry about last night is an Instagram. The Social Podcast Network has an Instagram. The Full Send, which is a fun podcast I do with Tiffany, is kind of a coffee review, but we just do tarot cards and bullshit for an hour. You can reach us on there. I mean, if you want to find me, I'm out there.
Nice.
Facebook, whatever.
Love it.
Follow, come run with me.
Yeah, buddy. I'm
When
gonna
are you
have to.
coming back?
We're trying to get down there soon. Next time we're down there, I'll come run with you.
Absolutely. We got to do another podcast.
Absolutely. Um, what do you want your legacy to be?
You can't say I didn't try.
Short and sweet. I love it. Tom, thank you
Can't
so
say
much
I
for
didn't try.
joining this show, brother. This has been amazing. I can't wait for the next one.
I'm here. You let me know. Don't make me ask next time. Love you, Trey.